Hey everyone, and welcome to our channel. Today, we're going deep into the archives to uncover some truly bizarre and fascinating historical events you probably haven't heard about in your textbooks. You see, history isn't just about dates and battles, kings and queens, it's about people. And sometimes people do really weird things. So, buckle up because we're about to embark on a wild ride through time. From dancing plagues and emu wars to exploding beer and a trial held for a dead pope. Yes, you heard that right. A dead pope. These stories are as unbelievable as they are true. Get ready to have your perceptions of the past challenged and your funny bone tickled. We'll be exploring the how and the why behind these events, trying to understand the context of the time and the motivations of the people involved. Because, let's be honest, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. And trust me, you're going to want to hear these stories. So grab your thinking caps, your skepticism, and maybe a snack or two, because we're about to dive headfirst into 25 historical events that will leave you saying, wait, they don't teach you in school. Our first stop takes us to Strasbourg, a bustling city in what is now France, in the sweltering summer of 1518. Picture this. It's July, the sun is blazing, and a woman named Frau Trophäa steps into the street and starts dancing. And I don't mean a casual jig or a little waltz, I'm talking full-on, frenzied, unstoppable dancing. Frau Trophäa danced for hours, days even, and soon, others in Strasbourg started to join her. Within a week, over 30 people were caught in the throes of this inexplicable dancing mania, their bodies gyrating uncontrollably. By August, the number of dancers had swelled to over 400, their bodies twisting and contorting in the streets, some even dancing themselves to death from exhaustion and dehydration. The dancing plague of 1518 remains one of history's most baffling medical mysteries. A stark reminder that sometimes, the human body can be a very strange place. Let's hop over to the land down under for our next historical head-scratcher. The year is 1932, the setting is Western Australia, and the combatants are Australia and emus. Yes, emus, those large, flightless birds. After World War I, Australia faced a massive influx of emus. These birds were wreaking havoc on crops and fences. Desperate farmers appealed to the government. The government's answer? Declare war on the emus. Armed with machine guns, the military took on the feathered foe. What followed was a comedic disaster. The emus proved surprisingly adept at evading gunfire. After weeks of defeats, the government called off the war. The emus emerged victorious. Hey everyone, welcome back to our countdown of historical events you probably haven't heard of. Today, we're stepping back in time to the Dutch Golden Age, a period of unprecedented economic growth and prosperity for the Netherlands. But amidst this booming trade and cultural flourishing, a peculiar phenomenon took hold. Tulip mania. You see, tulips, those colorful bell-shaped flowers, had just been introduced to Europe from Turkey, and they were all the rage. But this wasn't just a passing fancy for a pretty bloom. People were going absolutely bonkers for tulips, to the point where they were willing to trade their life savings, their homes, and even their livestock for a single bulb. Imagine that, folks. A flower, more valuable than gold. The price of tulips skyrocketed, with some rare varieties fetching prices equivalent to millions of dollars in today's money. People were buying and selling tulip bulbs like they were stocks, hoping to get rich quick off this botanical gold rush. But as with any bubble, the tulip mania couldn't last forever. In 1637, the market crashed, leaving countless investors financially ruined and the Dutch economy in shambles. The tulip, once a symbol of prosperity, became a cautionary tale about the dangers of speculation and the irrationality of crowds. Let's talk about a war that sounds like a Monty Python sketch, the Pig War. In 1859, a pig nearly ignited a war between the US and Great Britain. The setting was San Juan Island, claimed by both nations. Tensions escalated when American Lyman Cutler shot a British pig. Troops were dispatched and forces faced off. Cooler heads prevailed, resolving the conflict diplomatically. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to dive into a real head-scratcher, the Battle of Los Angeles. It was February 1942, just a few short months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and tensions were running high in the United States. The country was on edge, fearing another attack, and in the early hours of February 25th, those fears seemed to be realized. At around 2 a.m., air raid sirens blared across Los Angeles, and searchlights scanned the skies, illuminating something strange, an unidentified object hovering over the city. Anti-aircraft batteries sprang into action, unleashing a barrage of fire into the night sky. For over an hour, the city was consumed by the sounds of explosions and the blinding glare of searchlights. But when the smoke cleared and the dust settled, there was no sign of any enemy aircraft, no wreckage, and no explanation for what exactly had happened. The official explanation was that it had all been a false alarm, triggered by weather balloons or a case of collective jitters. However, many people, including some military personnel, remained convinced that something extraterrestrial had visited Los Angeles that night. The Battle of Los Angeles, with its eerie echoes of Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast, remains one of the strangest and most debated incidents in American history. Let's talk about a war that started because of a guy's ear. In 1731, Robert Jenkins, a British sea captain, had his ear sliced off by Spanish coast guards. The severed ear became a symbol of the broader conflict. The War of Jenkins' Ear kicked off in 1739. It shaped the balance of power in Europe and the Americas for years to come. When you think of devastating natural disasters, what comes to mind? Earthquakes, hurricanes, maybe a volcanic eruption? On January 15, 1919, Boston experienced a disaster unlike any other: the Great Molasses Flood. A 50-foot-tall tank burst, unleashing a wave of sticky molasses onto the city. Molasses, denser than water, moved at 35 miles per hour. The wave knocked buildings off foundations, twisted train tracks, and lifted a train car. 21 people were killed, and over 150 were injured. The cleanup was monumental, with the harbor stained brown for months. The early 20th century saw great technological advancements, but also overlooked dangers. The Radium Girls story is a tragic testament to this. It's about scientific progress, corporate greed, and the human cost of radium. Discovered by Marie and Pierre Curie in 1898, radium captured public imagination. Its glow-in-the-dark properties seemed magical. Young women painted watch dials with radium-infused paint, unaware of the danger. They ingested deadly amounts of radium with every lick. They developed anemia, brittle bones, and radium jaw. The Radium Girls fought back, filing lawsuits against the companies. Their courage led to significant changes in workplace safety regulations. Let's talk about a historical event that's both tragic and a little bit delicious sounding. October 17, 1814, London, a city known for its pubs and history. A massive vat at the Moo and Company brewery sprang a leak. A tidal wave of porter beer surged through the streets of St. Giles. Over 1.1 million liters of beer cascaded through the streets. Buildings collapsed, drowning at least 8 people. The streets were left coated in a thick, sticky residue. The brewery went bankrupt, a dark stain on London's brewing history. Just another reminder that history is full of surprises, even if some are a bit fermented. When we think of the French Revolution, our minds often go straight to Marie Antoinette and that infamous "let them eat cake" line. Today we're diving into a scandal that rocked the French court, the affair of the diamond necklace. It's the 1780s and France is teetering on the brink of revolution. The extravagance of the French court, particularly that of Marie Antoinette, is already a source of public discontent. Enter Jeanne de la Motte Valois, an ambitious, cunning woman with a serious chip on her shoulder against the monarchy. Jeanne concocted a plan so audacious, it could bring down the queen. At the heart of this scheme was a dazzling diamond necklace, worth an astronomical sum. Jeanne convinced Cardinal de Rohan that Marie Antoinette wished to acquire the necklace secretly. Of course, Marie Antoinette had no involvement in this scheme. When the truth unraveled, it was a scandal of epic proportions. The public saw this as proof of Marie Antoinette's extravagance and moral corruption. The affair of the diamond necklace irrevocably tarnished Marie Antoinette's reputation and fueled the growing flames of revolution. Buckle up, everybody, because today we're talking about one of the most bizarre events in history, the Cadaver Synod. Yes, you heard that right, a trial of a dead pope. Even in death, you can't escape the politics of the Catholic Church. It's January 897 AD and we find ourselves in Rome. Our posthumous participant is Pope Formosus, who made powerful enemies. Formosus had a tumultuous papacy. He crowned a king, got deposed by another pope, and then regained the papacy. Pope Stephen VI decided to settle old scores by putting the dead pope on trial. The charges? Perjury, violating canon law. So, they exhumed Formosus's corpse, dressed him in full papal regalia, and propped him up on a throne. They even assigned him a deacon to answer questions. The trial was a farce. Stephen VI screamed accusations at the corpse, berated Formosus, and found him guilty. His papacy was declared null and void. His body was dragged through the streets and dumped in the Tiber River. The Cadaver Synod is a chilling reminder of the lengths people will go to settle scores. Hey everyone, welcome back to 25 historical events you didn't know about. Today we're talking about the Great Stink of 1858. Imagine the hottest summer on record. The Thames was a breeding ground for bacteria. The stench permeated every corner of the city. Even Parliament couldn't escape it. It was a public health crisis waiting to happen. Welcome back everyone. This week we talk about one of the stranger battles in history, the Battle of Karansebes in 1788. Austria was at war with the Ottoman Empire. Disaster struck, not by enemies, but by themselves. A misunderstanding over schnapps led to chaos. Soldiers, disoriented, fired on anything that moved. Hey there everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today we're going to talk about The Year Without a Summer. No, it's not a dystopian novel. This was a real event with a profound impact. Buckle up folks, because we're going back to 1816. Spring turned into a cold, gray summer. The days grew colder, the skies grayer. A strange haze hung in the air. Warm days turned into a chilly nightmare, and it didn't get any better. In fact, it got worse. Frost ravaged crops, snow fell in June. It was as if the sun had forgotten how to shine. People shivered in the unseasonable cold, their breath forming white clouds. The reason? Thousands of miles away, a massive volcanic eruption. In 1815, Mount Tambora erupted with ferocity, the most powerful eruption in recorded history. Millions of tons of ash and sulfur dioxide. This cloud had a devastating effect on the global climate. Imagine this. You're a goat herder in Ethiopia, just chilling with your goats. But then, your goats start acting weird. Like, really weird. They're bouncing off the walls, literally dancing with an energy you've never seen before. Turns out, those weren't just any berries, those were coffee berries. This is one of the legends surrounding the discovery of coffee. Coffee is now a global phenomenon, connecting millions of people every day. And it all started with some jittery goats, or so the legend goes. London, 1814. It's a Monday. People are going about their day, doing their jobs. But a tidal wave of something much stronger than tea was about to hit the streets. It was a beer flood. The vat burst, unleashing a tsunami of beer. The flood destroyed buildings and drowned 8 people. The London beer flood is a reminder that disaster can strike in unexpected ways. London's Great Smog of 1952 was eerie and strangely quiet. Imagine a city shrouded in a thick yellowish-green haze so dense you can barely see your hand. This toxic cocktail of pollution brought London to a standstill. For 5 days, a high-pressure system trapped cold air and pollutants, creating pea soup smog. Coal smoke, industrial emissions, and vehicle exhaust were the culprits. Visibility was reduced to mere feet, halting transportation and canceling events. Thousands, especially the elderly and those with respiratory issues, succumbed to the toxic air. The Great Smog spurred the creation of environmental regulations to prevent such disasters. It reminds us to strive for a healthier, more sustainable future. All right, let's talk about molasses. In 1919, Boston faced a sticky disaster. A wave of molasses 2 stories high surged through the streets. A massive tank ruptured, sending a deadly wave of molasses. Buildings were destroyed and people were trapped. The cleanup was monumental, with the harbor stained brown for months. The Boston molasses disaster reminds us of the unexpected consequences of industrial failures. We humans were pretty good at starting wars, aren't we? But sometimes the reasons for those wars can be, well, a bit absurd. Case in point, the War of the Stray Dog. In 1925, a stray dog crossed the Greece-Bulgaria border, sparking a conflict. A Greek soldier followed, shots were fired and tensions escalated. the League of Nations intervened, preventing a full-blown war. The War of the Stray Dog shows how minor events can have major consequences. Let's journey to 1962 to the newly independent nation of Tanzania, then known as Tanganyika. This is the story of the Tanganyika laughter epidemic, an outbreak of uncontrollable laughter. Imagine a schoolroom where giggles turn into uncontrollable guffaws, spreading like wildfire. This bizarre social phenomenon baffled experts and captivated the world. It began in a small village, afflicting schoolgirls, and rapidly spread to neighboring communities. Thousands, mostly children and teenagers, experienced bouts of uncontrollable laughter. Theories abounded, but a definitive cause was never identified. The epidemic subsided mysteriously, leaving behind unanswered questions and a fascinating case study. All right, let's talk about Australia. Land of sunshine, incredible biodiversity, and losing a war to emus? Yes, you heard that right. In 1932, Australia battled emus. Veterans with Lewis guns faced thousands of emus. These 6-foot-tall birds were impervious to bullets. Soldiers set ambushes, but emus scattered comically. Newspapers screamed of emu victories. Despite efforts, soldiers were outmaneuvered. Emus lived to fight another day. The Great Emu War is a humorous footnote in history. Let's hop across the globe now, from the emu-ridden fields of Australia to the quaint town of Windham, Connecticut. It's 1754, and the residents are about to experience a full-blown frog invasion. We're talking a massive, cacophonous horde of frogs. Imagine the scene townsfolk waking to an ear-splitting chorus of croaking, streets teeming with slimy bodies, gardens overrun. It bordered on the apocalyptic. Frogs were seen as harbingers of plague and pestilence. The local militia sprang into action, convinced they were under attack. Soldiers, trained for battle, firing upon a wave of frogs. As quickly as they arrived, the frogs vanished, leaving behind a legend recounted for generations. Journey back to 14th century Italy, a time of simmering rivalries, political intrigue, and bucket theft. In 1325, Modena and Bologna nearly went to war over a humble wooden bucket. This wasn't just any bucket. It was a cherished relic from a previous victory over Bologna. Stolen in a daring nighttime raid, it symbolized civic pride. Bologna demanded its return. They saw the theft as a grave insult. A war over a bucket? Seems extreme, right? But symbols carried immense weight. The bucket embodied honor and prestige. The War of the Oaken Bucket was a messy affair. Bologna never reclaimed their bucket. Today, it remains in Modena, a testament to a war over pride and principle. Hey there, history fans! Today we're traveling back to 17th century London, a city teeming with life but also riddled with hazards. You see, fire was a constant threat in those days, especially in densely packed urban areas. And in 1666, London's worst nightmare became a reality. It all began in a bakery, as these things often do. A small fire broke out in the early hours of the morning, and within hours it spiraled completely out of control. Now, you might be thinking, how could a simple bakery fire engulf an entire city? Well, my friends, London wasn't exactly built for fire safety. Most buildings were made of wood and crammed together, creating a perfect storm for a conflagration. Strong winds that day only fanned the flames, carrying burning debris across the city. It was like something out of Dante's Inferno, with the sky ablaze and the streets choked with smoke. The fire raged for days, consuming everything in its path. By the time it was finally extinguished, over 13,000 homes, 87 churches, and countless businesses lay in ruins. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit that London rose from the ashes, but the Great Fire left an indelible mark on the city's history and psyche. Okay, let's shift gears now and journey to the remote Siberian wilderness in 1908. Picture this. It's a serene morning, birds are chirping, the sun is rising, and suddenly, bam! An explosion rips through the air so powerful that it flattens trees over 800 square miles. What caused this massive detonation? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? You see, the Tunguska event, as it's known, remains one of the most baffling mysteries in modern history. The leading theory is that a meteoroid or comet, roughly 120 feet wide, exploded in the atmosphere. But here's the catch: no crater was ever found. This lack of impact crater has fueled all sorts of speculation. Some suggest it was a small black hole passing through Earth, while others propose a UFO crash. Now, I'm not saying aliens are involved, but it's a tantalizing possibility, don't you think? What we do know is that the Tunguska event was incredibly powerful, estimated to be about 1,000 times stronger than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. It serves as a stark reminder of the immense forces at play in our universe, and how much we still don't understand. Well, that's it for today's deep dive into the weird, wild, and often overlooked corners of history. From dancing plagues to exploding skies, we've covered a lot of ground. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed learning about these lesser-known historical events, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Let us know in the comments which events surprised you the most. Thank you for joining us on Tech and Trek. Until next time, keep exploring the past with the power of the future.